recording, so we are official. Jim is here. Now we can rest easy.
There we go. Our
Everything's
man is
going
back.
well. Yeah, so Jeff and I just kind of got off on a tangent here. We'd like to get, we like to get on the call about 5 minutes early to get loose about a book that I'm reading, and it's kind of odd that I'm bringing it up because I'm not an alcoholic, but trying to relate the so the name of the book is The Easy Way to Stop Drinking. It's under my thing there. And then so my cousin Jeff's brother, I think, read the same book, How to Stop Smoking, and he stopped smoking. So the intention is to try and kind of reverse engineer where, okay, they're stopping people from doing something. So how do we tap into that and make people start doing something? And if I maybe get 300 pages and say, no, that's not the way this is going to work. However, hopefully I'll be smarter for having read another book at the very least.
Well, I mean, when you look at it that way, part of the mission here is to stop people from pursuing their bad habits, right? So,
right.
I mean, I'm curious to hear after you read this thing, what your takeaways are, because so my brother Scott and his wife Chrissy, I think it was 10 years ago.
Been a while.
They were pretty heavy smokers, and I don't know what it was that made them decide to quit smoking, but they both decided, it's time. And they read, I believe it's the book that was the precursor to the one you're reading. I'd have to find the guy's name and everything.
Yeah, Alan Carr. So his book was like the smoking was like the most famous one. So yeah, this is what this thing looks like.
Yeah, I'm sure it's the same guy. And from what Scott told me, just over a couple conversations, was while reading the book, he encouraged you to continue smoking, like continue.
Gotta be the same guy then, because he says the exact same thing. Keep drinking.
Right. Like don't stop. But then he starts to get you to question how you feel before you have your drink or your smoke, during and afterwards.
Right.
Like, okay, you just had your cigarette. Do you really feel better? Did it really calm your nerves? And just kind of gets you thinking about why you're doing it and the habitual practice of it. And so I think it totally applies to 18 Strong, because how many times are we trying to help someone stop eating or eating crappily, or to stop, procrastinating on workouts, you can spin it one way or the other.
Right.
And so it's probably a kind of a book on persuasion and habits, and really examining why you're doing what you're doing or why you're not doing what you're not doing, like exercising, eating healthy, doing all the different things. Why are you wasting time binging on Netflix when you could have gone and walked the dog, or you could have gone out to the driving range, or you could just go, do some stretches, or any of that. But I'm curious, so how far into the book are you, and what are some of the takeaways so far that you've gotten?
So I'm a little over a third. It does sound like that's a bad word, like the book is a trap. So by the end of it, you're like, oh, God damn it, he fooled me into stopping drinking, like in a good way. But it's so like from a marketing brain, he kind of breaks it down. Like they're the same three things people think of when they have to drink. Like it calms my nerves. It makes me social. The same things, the same 3 to 5 things every single person has. Same thing with fitness. I don't have time. I don't like running, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically everything that that people have told you all along is false. Because like alcohol, for example, and really take a step back, the end goal is the same. You want to feel better,
right?
For whether it's fitness or smoking or stopping drinking, the end is still identical. Like I just want to feel better, and that's it. But yeah, and it's like one of the examples is, right, you think like when you are social, it makes you more social, loosens you up, and you're more fun. It actually just makes you dumber, which guilty sometimes. But yeah, it's so, think about, so Big Pharma, I love ripping on Big Pharma. So they are 75% of all advertising is Big Pharma now. So what they're telling us all the time is, don't worry about it, man. We've got a pill for that. or, the healthy food. Don't, this is fine. This is all this processed stuff. That's not healthy. It's like, no, 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 that is wrong. That's what's making you feel bad. This is what's making you feel bad. So the whole thing is it's almost like if we wrote the book, it would be instead of, like the easy way to stop drinking, the easy way to stop exercising.
Yeah.
The double negative. But yeah, it's uncovered, and I see where he's going, and he leaves the social part out. Like he keeps, the open loop keeps dragging. Okay, keep coming with me, and then I'm going to teach you how you can go to a party and not drink. Like you just had your Ryder Cup for a whole weekend with those guys. When I'm sure I know that crowd, and I guarantee you there was a bunch of booze inhaled that weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those that just joined, or well, we were kind of talking about this before we recorded the call or started recording the call. I had my Ryder Cup weekend, and really this Ryder Cup weekend is kind of what led to a little bit of the topic of this call, because my Ryder Cup weekend did not go the way that I planned it to go. And first of all, what we were just talking about is the fact that I'm going on a little bit of a no alcohol kick these days, and again, as a bit of a challenge to myself, I did it intentionally, knowing that I was going on a golf trip with 34, 33 of my college buddies. So some of my best friends in the world. We do this every year. It's our Ryder Cup. We have, 2 teams. We get hats. We got this slick Linksole hat with the Troost East on the side.
Oh, that's cool.
So we get our uniforms and everything. But it's just a blast of a time. We play Friday afternoon for fun, and then Saturday is a 27-hole kind of Ryder Cup format. We've adjusted it a little bit to we do a 2-man scramble to start, and we were kind of crammed on time this past Saturday with getting everybody through and then getting our third 9 in. So we decided to do a shamble for the second 9, and then we do singles matches on the final 9. But typically it's, guys, coolers in the cart, music playing, and some people, do very little drinking. Some of the guys hit it as hard as you've seen. And so, it's always, and then, afterwards we stayed at this really cool hotel, had a rooftop bar at the top of the hotel, beautiful night, beautiful weekend. And I'll be honest, it was a challenge to not have any alcohol throughout the weekend. And my golf game Friday was pretty decent. I shot a 38 on the front 9, and then I shot a 43 on the back 9. So an 81 at a course we'd never seen. It was 81.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it was a challenging course, a lot of blind shots, had never seen the place. So I was really happy with the way I played on Friday. And then come Saturday, it's me and my partner, one of my best friends of all time. I played with Otek Rhino, and we were in a cart together all day long. And we step up, we're playing 2 guys that we know are pretty good. And I hit a good drive, and then was about, 145 out, hit my approach shot to about 3 feet. Matt sank the putt. And I was like, phew, this is going to be easy today.
Easy game.
This is
Easy
a
game.
piece of cake. And from that hole on, I played, I believe, so I just got my revision today. I'm a 10.9 index. I played like I was a 25 handicap for sure the rest of the day. Literally, my buddy Matt, his last name is Otek, and so we call him Robotech because he was just a robot off the tee, hit everything pretty straight. Putter wasn't completely dialed in, so I had some pretty big putts throughout the day, but other than that, I was garbage for the most part.
White hot garbage.
And so when you're in that situation, or when I was in that situation, it is really hard. And we talk about this almost every week on this call, like how I can't tell you how many times I mentally thought about these calls and some of the conversations that we've had. And I will say that I didn't implement some of the strategies that we talked about as far as like really settling myself down, here and there I did. But what I really focused on was how great of a weekend this weekend was, and then half the time Matt's like, dude, are you sure you can't start drinking right now? Cause I think it might help a little bit, kind of needling me and prodding me a little. But as bad as I was playing, I think I said it in a post that I made on social media, like as bad as I was playing and as frustrated as I would get when I missed a shot terribly, um, you couldn't wipe the smile off my face because to me, I kept remembering that thought of remember how much you love being out here, right? Like we talked about, remember why you're out here when you're out there. And so it was like, man, I'm out here with my best friends, possibly one of my greatest friends, and I haven't seen him in a year. We literally saw each other the last time we were in a cart together, and I get to spend all day with him and 2 days with him really. And so as terrible as the golf was, it was kind of remembering like, okay, what do we talk about every single week? We talk about how much we love the game, why we play the game in times when it's tough. Like that's when you're challenged. That's what the game is all about, being challenged. And it was a freaking challenge from my, my athleticism, my mental thought of how much of an athlete I feel like I am and how it should be so much easier to play this game. And then you hit a shot like you did. And it was just really, really interesting. So I kept thinking like, all right, if you're resilient, like what does 18 strong mean? 18 strong does not mean, how strong you are in the gym, how much weight you can lift. It doesn't mean you're the greatest golfer in the world. 18 strong to me, again, is strong. The definition is the ability to withstand great force and pressure. And from one standpoint, I was under a lot of pressure and I felt bad. When you're playing on a team, it's different than just playing by yourself too, because I had Matt and he literally was carrying me on his back all day long. And I felt so bad. And so then the pressure just weighs on you and weighs on you and weighs on you even more. But then it was like, all right, that's what this is about. 18 strong is about being resilient under pressure, being able to withstand great force and pressure. And this sucks right now, but I'm still having a good time. And ultimately, our team, not just our two-man team, but our entire East team, we got waxed over the course of the day. But the game of golf is so great because the very last, well, we lost on the 8th hole. Matt lost on the 8th hole in his singles match. I had bowed out the hole before. But the 9th hole, and this was my favorite part of the whole weekend. The 9th hole, we're like, well, let's just finish playing out. We were playing with two guys that I really didn't know that well. They've kind of filled in the last 2 years. And we're like, well, let's play out the last hole. Let's put something on it. $10 a man. We'll scramble in. Two of my other buddies had come up in the cart, twin brothers, and they were like, well, we'll jump in. So we did a 3-man scramble, par 5, long par 5, great hole. And we get up to the end. We both miss our birdie putts, or no, we both miss our eagle putts, and we push. So we're like, well, we can't leave it on a tie, so let's go again. Let's go to number 10. So we go to number 10. Long story short, we push. We're on number 10, and by this time it's like 5 o'clock in the evening. Beautiful day, sun's starting to set just a little bit. Nobody else on the course. And, you're just kind of looking around. You're like, man, we kind of own this golf course, right? It felt like Sweetens Cove, Ryan. Right. Where you're the only people out there. So we're on 10 was a par 4. We're on 10's green. We're like, well, I guess we got to do it again. I'm like, well, let's not drive all the way back. Let's go to 11 tee box and we'll hit back onto 10 green as a little par 3. So we play that, and then we pushed. We scooted back a tee box. We pushed. We scooted back. So it ended up being like a $30 per man bet. But like in that moment, I even took a little video that I shared on social media too, of just us standing on the tee box, smoking cigars, music playing. And I was like, it doesn't get any better than this. And I also was playing a little bit better on those last 5 holes,
which always helps.
Which always helps. But I ended up losing $30. But it was like, this was possibly my favorite memory of all the Ryder Cups that we've had up to this point. And it was after the worst day of golf I played in, I can't remember how many years. So it was like, man, it all comes down to kind of the attitude that I put forth, at least for me, the attitude that I brought to it. And I still feel shitty about how I let my partner down. I still in my head, I'm like, man, you you really sucked last weekend. You need to go to the range. But at the same time, it was that mindset of like, keep remembering when you're out here, why you're out here. So there's a little recap of my weekend. I don't know how I got off the rails onto that from the book of quitting drinking, but
Yeah, because we started to like they call it the mastery, starting to master the being present on the course and enjoying the moment rather than beating yourself up all afternoon.
yeah, like how do you still have fun even when it's not fun, right? You gotta kind of twist it around and remember that again, I wasn't at work. I wasn't, doing something that I hated. I was doing something that I was bad at for the moment, but I still enjoyed being out there. And that's what it is. We talk about it all the time, Ryan. Like we play the game because of the camaraderie, because of going out and being able to hang out with the boys and everything. And oftentimes when we play, having a couple drinks is part of that. Obviously not on our Friday morning rounds, but
No,
that's a big
not
part
yet.
of it. And so even that little bit right there, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, like alcohol is just a social thing, right? And so in a social setting, it's very easy to kind of rely on that a little bit. And very honestly, in my head, it's kind of like, man, I really wish that I just love that bit of it, having a couple beers with the boys, and
Right.
but just being able to challenge myself in that situation, which is probably the hardest situation of the entire year, to not have alcohol.
Right.
And I was able to push through and made it. And then, it's amazing how you feel better Saturday morning. You're like, oh, good decision. Saturday night, oh, I wish I could have a drink. Sunday morning, oh man, I'm so glad I didn't drink yesterday. I feel great.
Yeah.
I got home, and Sunday I was so, typically you get home from a guy's weekend on a Sunday and you're kind of a piece of shit, and it's like you got to go get the kids and do and all you want to do is like rest and relax and watch some golf on TV or whatever. I was super productive. My wife and son were out of town in a bike race. I got all kinds of stuff done. And yeah, so just it's interesting the how the perspective changes over the course of the day.
Yeah, that's pretty good to like the nighttime Jeff and the morning Jeff are always fighting each other.
Always.
Like, oh my God, I'm gonna hate myself tomorrow. But
I mean,
it
it's like
tastes so good.
and whatever your vice is, if your vice is
Right.
is eating, if your
Yeah,
vice
it could be chicken
is
wings.
yeah, whatever, it's like you get to the end of the day, and I don't know who originally kind of talked about this, but like kind of that energy tank, and you only have so many decisions that you can make before your decision making just kind of goes out the
Right.
window. And so most of us, I would say that by the end of the day, and many times you're looking to just kind of chill out and relax, and that goes hand in hand with eating and drinking and just lounging around and not being productive and not doing the things that you need to do.
Right.
And but then when you do what you're supposed to do, or you don't fall into that bad habit, and you go to bed and you wake up the next morning, again, it's that little win. It's that confidence builder. It's that, yeah, all right, I beat the dragon last night and I feel great about it. And now I feel like, and then you just take those little wins and you move on and you keep building those and stocking those and stocking those. And I guarantee that that's kind of what that book will end up talking about is,
Yeah.
you've been wanting to drink this whole time. Now you're drinking. Now you're realizing what it feels like. I know this is what Scott talked about with the smoking. Like now you realize what it feels like. Like, all right, take a step back before you have that cigarette or before you have that drink. And now, do you really want it? Do you really need it? What's it going to make you feel like afterwards? Are you really going to feel better? Are you, or are you going to feel worse about yourself, which is typically what happens. You end up feeling
Right.
worse about yourself, not maybe in the moment, but the next morning, or right after sitting on the couch eating a bag of potato chips, like
I
oh,
always go
shit.
back to fast food on that deal. Like, why the hell did I just eat that?
Yeah,
It just makes you feel like garbage.
Right.
right. Like on my kid's birthday, typically the tradition is I'll go out early morning and get some donuts, and it's like, oh man, I love donuts too, like, and so give me a big old apple fritter, and then you eat it and you're like,
That's terrible.
that was good, but I feel like crap now, like
for
why
the
did I
rest of the
do that?
day.
Why did I do that? So,
Yeah, we're not always that bright. We know we're not gonna feel good. I mean, how many times have you said that like on a Saturday morning at 5, like, oh man, this is great getting out here early
mhm.
and up and moving on a Saturday morning. This is fantastic. And yet Saturday night, I may go and have a bunch of booze and then Sunday feel like garbage again. Like,
Mhm.
why am I not learning this lesson?
Yeah, it's about becoming more aware of all of those things. And you can relate this to a bad habit on the golf course, even kind of like the mental mindset that you get in, going to negative town, staying out on a tee box or over a putt, or, um, you know, you just, when you start to become a little bit more aware of it. And again, we've talked about the meditative stuff and like almost like stepping out of yourself and being the observer of what Jeff the golfer is doing right now, and or Jeff the guy sitting on the couch watching Netflix, like being the observer and taking that step back, like, okay, let's help out with that decision a little bit and let's analyze that decision a little bit instead of just falling into those natural bad habits.
Well,
Yeah.
one nice benefit of your performance on over the weekend on the golf course was that you enhanced the self-esteem and image of the other players because they apparently did better than you did, so you
Well,
you
that's
didn't, you didn't
Man,
man,
realize
you're
you
really
look
looking
like-
on the bright side here, Jim.
yeah,
He made him look like
That's
rock
right.
stars.
Yeah.
so
Selflessly, he made Otek look like a
that's
tiger.
I'm
what
gonna
out there.
use that
this
one.
is why
Hey,
you need to subscribe to 18 strong, get better.
because
Right.
I'll be so shitty out there that I'll make you look good. How about
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like the movie Back to School, and Rodney Dangerfield says, "Hey, maybe I need fatter actors because then it makes him
Right.
look skinny."
Right. Exactly.
That's good. So, Marina, let's see. Oh, so Bodine, what triggered you to start not having any alcohol? And for how long are you doing it?
So well, we're
What's
all
the being
friends here.
comfortable?
So I have decided that I'm going to do this. I'm doing the 75 hard challenge, which was one of the kind of I modeled the Forge a little bit after what it's called 75 hard. It was started by Andy Frisella, the owner of First Form, a St. Louis guy, and it's a huge thing all over the place. So if you type in 75 hard anywhere you'll find it. And basically it's a 75-day deal where think of basically the Forge, very similar, but just some different tasks and different things. But one of the big ones is no alcohol, and again, no cheating on your diet. And so I'm on day 16 or 17, I think. And I figured after doing the Forge, which I still plan on doing beginning of January with everybody, and I really want to make a push to get a ton of people to do the Forge. But I decided that, with this being a little bit of the inspiration of how I designed the Forge and how we put it together, it was basically like my Lenten challenge to myself, and then a couple other tasks mixed in. I saw how Andy put this together and how it's kind of a no compromise. You got to finish every single task or you got to start over. And I really like that. And so I figured, well, if I kind of put together the Forge inspired by that, I should probably try that and give it a whirl. And I'll say that, there are certain things about it that are more challenging, but there are certain things that I think the Forge was a little bit more challenging too. So there's different pieces, as far as like the details and what you have to do. And but
So yeah.
yeah.
So what are the differences? So he's got, is it 5 or 7 things that you do?
So
every
it's
day?
basically, so I don't miss one.
Are you crossing it off every day?
Yeah. So I made up my own little sheet here. And it's so I'm on day 18 actually. So you have to take a progress picture of yourself every morning. You don't have to post it or anything, but take a selfie of yourself. And that's more like detail oriented, like just to make sure that you're, checking off every little box. Like he said, kind of like ours with the lemon water or some of the other little things, like it was the simple little thing, or the things that seem simplest, that you end up kind of skipping out on and forgetting, which is what happened to me that one time when I missed the EFTs. So take a progress picture. Plus, then at the end, you can kind of see the change in that you've made physically. You have to read 10 pages a day of some sort of professional development, personal development, some sort of a book that's going to help you improve yourself. You have to do one 45-minute outdoor workout, and then you have to do another 45-minute workout at some point during the day. So 2 45-minute workouts, and they cannot be back to back. And then you have to drink 1 gallon of water every day, and then no cheating on your diet and no alcohol. So really kind of 6 things that I have on here that I check off. So
Yeah, I always like the outside workout thing, because those are the better stories when you are, 6 a.m. in the morning and it's sleeting, and you just are, 11 p.m. at night, and oh shoot, I forgot to do that. I think Jim has a good one where he was making his neighbors think he had lost his mind more so than usual. But yeah, that's hard. 75 days that's a jaunt.
75, it's going to be a long one. And, so then what I continue to tell myself is, man, this is going to be really cool, because, and as much as it's going to be hard, the hardest part about it is the scheduling of it. So even this past weekend, when I did the Ryder Cup, I had to get up and get a workout in the morning. So I woke up, on a guy's weekend, woke up at 5 a.m. to go down to the hotel gym. I was like,
first guy ever to do that. Ever.
Pretty sure I'm not going to run into any of my buddies down there. But go ahead.
Jeffrey, are you going to do 45 minutes exercise indoors every day workout for 75 days without no rest days?
Correct.
So how is your body going to react to that one? Are the muscles not going to be suffering somehow?
Well, it all depends on what you're doing as your workout. So like on, was it this Monday, I did my walk around the park with the dog, and I have a weighted vest on, and I typically will stop at some of the different benches and do some push-ups and maybe some lunges and stuff like that. And then I was playing in a golf scramble Monday afternoon, so I knew that I couldn't do like a traditional strength training workout. So I did a little bit more like a move, mobility style workout with some core stuff, and just kind of worked on some of my back exercises. And really, like, over these 75 days, I've really taken this as a time to really help myself get to a point where my body feels really good. So I'm not focusing so much on, and this will happen, but I'm not focusing so much on, body composition and what my body looks like, and trying to, I mean, that's all a little bit of a piece of it, but my first and foremost goal with this 75 days, since I am going to be eating really clean and I'm not going to be ingesting any alcohol, is to get my body feeling really good. Over the past 2 years, or really year, I've struggled with some back issues. I've got some other things that I am constantly kind of like battling and working on. But I'm going to take these days to, if I have a day where, I feel like I am pretty worn out or sore from my weights workout the day before, I'll just do 45 minutes of stretching, or, some sort of mobility exercise, or maybe go take a walk. Just take a walk outside. Sometimes it'll be 2 outdoor workouts. It doesn't have to be an indoor workout, but one has to be outdoor. Yeah. So it's about having some sort of plan and progression of what you want to do. Now, I do have 5 strength training workouts laid out that I'm going to do every single week. And I might break those up, and I might put a mobility day in between, or heck, some weeks I might even skip one and do something completely different, just because I know how my body's feeling. So like I said, I'm 18 days in, and it's going to be it's an experiment. It's, I'm sure that I have another buddy that has done it. I've got another friend here at the gym that is about 20 days ahead of me. And, there have been a couple, and he also has a newborn baby. He has come in a couple times and looks like a zombie. And he's like, I'm just exhausted, so again, it sounds pretty extreme, and to some extent it is, but again, it just like the forge, it's less about the physical challenge and it's more about the mental and the discipline challenge for me. The process of it all will take care of the physical piece. You know, I know that by the end of this, I will be in very good shape. I'll be leaner than I am, you know, on a normal basis. And then I'm excited because then, you know, a month later, I'm going to go into the forge and do it for another 40 days. And, you know, so it's, again, I start to geek out a little bit on challenging myself. And then it, you know, it just kind of plays into other things. You start to think a little bit clearer. I mean, most of you on this call have done the forge or something along those lines where you start to just kind of click on all cylinders, right? Like your brain's working a little bit better, you're feeling better, you're starting to be more productive. You find yourself just being a little bit more task oriented. And I just love kind of seeing that happen. And I think, you know, that's really what this whole thing is about. It's just constantly moving a little bit, getting a little bit better every single day. And
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Ryan says it all the time, you know, 1% better every day. That's what we're trying to get. 1% better
Yep.
every day.
Yeah, I love saying that to Murphy when he goes to practice every day. So and then so we always talk about this training with a purpose. So your purpose is almost like a repair type thing, or how would you describe, you know, training? Yeah, training with purpose, training with a goal. Like obviously your goal last time, I think, you know, when you did the forge, it was more you wanted to be sub 10% body fat. That was kind
Right.
of the main goal. And
Right.
now it's just almost, and again, we talk about goals like they have to be quantifiable.
Yeah.
And
So,
just feeling better is not a goal.
right. So my workouts, you know, my weights workouts aren't going to look that much different than they did during the forge. They're still going to be, you know, I'm still pushing myself pretty hard in that category with a couple upper body days and lower body days. And then even, you know, doing some other mobility stuff. And I want to mix in some other things like the sled. And I was talking to my buddy Dave, who is really good. We've got some cool tools here like maces and kettlebells and all these different things. And so one of the days I'm just going to try to kind of like mix something in that's a little bit different than my traditional splits, you know, kind of branch out a little bit. And then like this weekend, my son and I, we're going to go mountain bike riding, you know, and those kind of things. But I would say that, yeah, the main goal is kind of like almost like a rehab and recovery. So my weights workouts are going to be, I'm paying very close attention to the exercises that I do to make sure that they aren't jeopardizing, you know, my back is my main thing that I really want to make rock solid by the end of this 75 days. So
Yep.
I know that if I do at this current moment, if I do back squats, if I do heavy deadlifts, without taking certain precautions, I think I've almost given up back squats forever. You know, barbell back squats.
Right.
So I use dumbbells. I use, I do a lot of split squats and Bulgarian split squats and lunges and those different types of exercises, a little more unilateral, where it's taking some of the pressure off of the spine. So just being really aware of the exercises that I'm putting in, that they're not going to jeopardize my back. And then the workouts that I'm doing that aren't part of those heavy weights days are going to be more towards, you know, making sure that my hips are moving well, making sure I'm working on, you know, even my ankles and my thoracic spine, and just kind of getting everything moving that I know is going to help my golf game. It's going to help my back feel better. It's going to help work on my core strength, you know, just trying to piece all that together. And so first and foremost, that's going to be the big piece, is just, I don't want to feel like a 44-year-old man, you know, I want to feel like a 25-year-old. And so if there's ever a chance for me to try to attain something more like that, it's now, it's doing this. And so having that as a priority. Now, again, the process of doing all this stuff will ultimately lead to most of the other, you know, vanity style results that I would love to have. I mean, just me eating clean and not drinking alcohol is going to get me probably close to 10% body fat, if not lower, with the fact that I'm also having so much activity and weight training. But priority number one is don't get hurt, improve any injuries, and be preventative for the future. So when next golf season rolls around, or even when we do our trail run, like that's one of the pieces too, like the trail run, like this is a great opportunity for me to get ready for that trail run in December, where, some of my outdoor workouts are now going to start out as small runs and eventually maybe bigger runs. So,
Yeah. And for me last year, the best part of it, it's gonna be hard for you. The best part of that trail run was the beers afterwards.
well, I'll be done by then.
Oh, excellent. All right. Fast studies it is.
Yeah. Yeah. So in regards to this whole idea of the call, mastery, I don't remember if I mentioned this last week. I'm always, now that I'm reading at least 10 pages a day, I've got a new book for you guys almost every week. I don't remember if I mentioned this one. It's called Mastery by George Leonard.
I don't think we brought it up yet.
What's funny is I thought that this was on my shelf at home, and I thought that I had read this, and I started reading it. I'm like, oh, I actually didn't read this. I read his previous book, and it's called The Way of Aikido. But again, it was all in the lines of mastery. And I don't know if you guys know anything about Aikido as a martial art. Aikido is, I think Steven Seagal is an Aikido master. And it's basically utilizing the energy of your opponent, and the intention is to keep both of you safe. So, instead of you striking, it's more when they try to strike, how to maneuver and toss and throw and do all these things to protect yourself, but also to safely protect your enemy, which is really interesting. But the first book was all about just how this guy trained, I don't know for how many years, and how monotonous it was. But in that process of becoming a black belt, there were so many times in there where it just felt like they were going through the motions and going through the motions and going through the motions. But over the course of these years and years and years, he started to recognize that was just a ritual of mastery, and going in, and starting to appreciate every little bit of the ceremony of it, walking up the steps to the dojo, hanging up his clothes and putting his gi on, and the smell of the room. And you start to kind of think of all these different pieces and components to same thing with golf, like getting to the course and pulling your bag out and going through your bag and finding which coin you're going to put in your pocket to use as your ball marker, and putting the tees in your pocket, all going to the range, and the dew on the grass, all these little things that you start to recognize, even though you're kind of doing the same thing. But what he was talking about in this book that I thought was really important for all of us to remember is that mastery is not necessarily attaining a specific goal. Mastery, there is no, we use the term master, but you never really get to the point where you're a master. Like, you can't say I've mastered the game of golf, right? There's always something that you're going to get better at. Now, he describes the peaks and the plateaus, and how, as we, especially at the beginning, you start to hit these peaks and you start to have these bumps of learning and seeing new results. And it's like, oh man, this is awesome. I'm just getting better, and I'm just going to keep going up and up and up and up and up. And you get to a certain point where all of a sudden, like, you hit this plateau. And that's where different characters arise in ourselves. Either you become the person that is like, well, I'm not getting any better, I'm out of here. Like, this is boring. It doesn't, it's almost like a relationship where it's like, it's so exciting at the beginning, it's the honeymoon phase. And then, you get to this plateau, and then you're both like, this is boring, I'm going to find somebody else. Or any other bright, shiny object syndrome that we talk about, it gets to that point where it kind of plateaus and you're out of there. Or you have what he calls the hacker, which I thought was really interesting in regards to golf. Is the hacker gets to the plateau and they're just like, all right, I'm cool here. Like, I'm not really going to pursue getting better. And many times in relation to golf, I find myself in this category. It's like, rather than putting in the time, putting in the effort to actually work on something and get better, it's just kind of like, I'm okay. I'll figure out, I can bat it around good enough and I'll go out and play. But the master realizes that those plateaus, you're still working towards something. You might not be seeing yourself elevating. In fact, sometimes you might even feel like you're getting worse. We've all felt that with the game of golf. But even in the gym, even working out, like you might feel like you're stagnant, but it's the ritual of continuing to do it and continuing to do it. And then all of a sudden, as you're going along and you're going along and you're going along, it's like, boop, you go up to a new level. And it's like, whoa, that was kind of cool. And now all of a sudden something clicked for you and you see that you've made some improvement, and then it's another plateau, and then plateau. And it's kind of like, shit, man, am I ever going to get better? And then boop, you kind of like, again, raise up. And so then all of a sudden you start to feel like, oh, I'm in a plateau. This is cool. If I keep working, eventually I'm going to see myself get a little bit better. I'm going to get a little bit better. So he talks about it through the eyes of Aikido, but just going in and doing the same throws and holds and grapples, and it feels like you're not getting anywhere, but then just appreciating the fact that you're doing it, and loving the fact that every moment that you're in there is progress being made under the surface. There's progress being made that you can't see. And the peaks are going to be temporary. Anytime you hit that peak, we're always trying to get like the next thing. Like
Right.
I want to get a hole in one. I want to shoot a 78. Well, you shoot the 78 and then, all right, that's over. I still got to go tomorrow and play again. And, so recognizing the fact that those peaks or those achievements, those are just a breeze, a sheet in the wind or whatever.
Fart in the wind. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there you go.
It's a fleeting thing.
It's a
where-
fleeting moment, right?
Right.
But when you learn to enjoy the process of actually getting better, and this is something that, even talking to our kids about their practice, and, like, don't worry so much about the end result or, the goal that you're trying to get to. Sometimes you just got to step back and say, like, no, just learn to enjoy practice. Learn to enjoy the fact that you're
Right.
going out there and you're getting better. Learn to enjoy the fact that you can go out to the driving range, that you're not stuck in the, like, those little things. Kind of back to our conversation from before. But I'm only, probably a quarter of the way through this book, but now it's kind of bringing back a lot of the thoughts and processes from his last book that I read. And I just thought that was a fascinating topic for us, for our community, and how it totally relates to everything we're talking about with golf, because there's never a point where we're going to say, yep. I mean, you hear it all the time. Oh, I figured it out. Figured out my swing.
I've said it.
I said it last weekend with Matt. I'm like, all right, I just fix it. I fix it. Wait till next hole. And then gone, lost the ball.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. So this year, so my son Murphy is 12, and we talk about soccer all the time. And he has a new coach. So you sit down every beginning of the season with the new coach, and he brought out this almost like a matrix, and it's okay. Here's your age and your skill level. This is kind of how you progress as a soccer player. This applies to really everything. And it's, when you're, let's call it 6 to 8 years old, it's, just the fundamentals of learning to trap a ball, to pass the ball, to shoot the ball. And then you go from there to there. So he's 12 now, and he is in the point where, let me pull this over here. The coach said, what we're focusing on is learning how to train. And that's it. He's like, the wins and the losses, that's great. Or the wins are obviously great. But we're not worried about that yet. And then you graduate to, okay, now we are playing at a high level. We're here to win this thing. But he's like, our main focus for this year, next year, is to learn how to come to practice prepared, whether it's nutrition, just getting loose, everything. This is how you train. And I was not expecting him to say that, especially like a 12-year-old kid, but they really treat these kids like they are adults, and they're very, very open and honest with them. It's not like, hey, come on, we're out here to have fun. Like, no, and these boys love the game. Like, they just want to get better. So that's the whole thing. And I ask him when he comes home from practice every day, like, how did training go? Well, did you get better? Did you get 1% better today? Yep. It's always yes, of course.
Right.
But yeah, so it's it's universal.
Man, I love that.
He's awesome. His coach is awesome.
Especially because, you know, at that age, and I know Murphy and I know his mentality and, you know, like they want to win bad, right? Like,
Oh, like more than anything.
right. Like even, I mean, playing against their cousins in the side yard, it's like life or death, right? Like
It gets dirty.
almost fisticuffs. And so, you know, that these kids, like they're always thinking about, oh, what did we do against this team last time? And so it's super hard to then instill in those boys and girls the fact that it's not about, you know, whether you win 3-2. It's the process of us going out and doing what we said we were going to do, and coming prepared, and like you said, eating well. Did you guys hydrate? You know, here's how we get ready. Here's how you show up. Your shirts are tucked in, you know, like all of those little things,
Little stuff.
because those things eventually end up leading to the wins. Those end up leading to the championships. And I see this with strength training, especially with the younger kids, you know, the kids coming in at 13, 14 years old. You bring them in, especially the boys, because what they want to do is they want to lift as heavy as they can go, right? That's the thing. And I especially saw this a few years ago when I owned a gym with my business partner, and he worked with a lot of hockey players. And so a lot of younger hockey players were coming in, and they would start out doing body weight exercises. And then you have these, you know, NHL players that are coming in, and these guys are lifting lots of weight. But these kids come in over a couple of years, you know, every summer they come in. And so you get to know the same kids. And it's the ones that took seriously the form, the postures, the tempos, that, you know, that first year that they come in, the second year they come in, they can barely lift a shirt off their back, right? Like doing dumbbell presses. They're like wobbling with the 10-pound weights or whatever, but they're doing it perfectly. They're doing it with perfect tempo, and they're doing every exercise with the right posture. That's the kid that 3 years from then, when he starts to get a little testosterone in his system, he starts to get a little bit of height, he starts to get a little bit more muscle to him, and now all of a sudden he's a 16-year-old kid. That's the kid that comes in and is strong as shit, compared to the kids that were trying to lift heavy 2 years ago, because they did what they were supposed to do. They have good range of motion. All of their joints work properly. They're able to go through full range of motion, and they're strong through full range of motion. And I can remember thinking, like, man, you know, as a kid in high school, all we tried to do was lift as heavy as we possibly could. But if you had a camera on us, we probably looked terrible. Our form was probably awful. But you see these guys and then them develop over the course of a couple of years, and how perfect their form is, and how strong, like truly strong they are, not jerking around a bunch of weight, but like doing dumbbell presses, you know, with 80, 90, 100 pounds, and doing it very controlled and well. It's like, that's how you have to do it. It's not about the quick win when you're 14 or you're 15. It's learning to build that foundation, and that foundation then allows you to exponentially be stronger than the other guys that are out there that did it wrong at the beginning.
Yeah, that's a tough sell to a teenage boy.
Oh, totally.
To not, because everyone's maxed out all the time. Like, how much you bench? I would imagine that those same kids are really good in training on the ice. Like, they're doing what the coach tells them to do. Their technique is, after years, is going to be, you know, as you know, mastery thing, just almost perfect. And how many of those kids went to the NHL that you saw? A lot.
Yeah, a lot of those kids,
like a crazy amount.
Or at least played, you know, D1 or super high level. But you know, it takes diligence in the coaching at the beginning to correct them and say, like, you know, first put your phone down, right? Like, no phones in the gym. And when they do it wrong, correct them, make them do it over. And there's nothing cooler than having a kid in here and he does a little bit of a not perfect rep, and you say something and he just automatically does an extra one to make up for it, you know, like on his own accord. not making him do it, but he's like, oh, that one didn't count. That one didn't count. And then he does another one. You know, it's like, that's when you know you've got them roped in, and they're really doing it to get better, not just to pass the time. That's what I find with some of my clients that are more I'd put in the country club category.
Right.
Sometimes when they come in for a training session, it's a little bit more of an appointment on the calendar that needs to get checked off. And so there's
Right.
not as much of the awareness, there's not as much of the intent in the training session. It's more, I got to go get my workout in, and okay, I checked it off the list. Now, if you ask them afterwards, did you get 1% better, you know, or was that a good training session? You know, in my eyes, sometimes it's not. And it's because they're not on the road of mastery. They're not on the road of really getting better. They're on the mode of just kind of checking off the fact that they worked out twice that week or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah, and I've seen that too, or like I especially see this in girls where I worked out today. It's just something that you like to say, where it's almost like holding like a Starbucks cup. Do you really like Starbucks that much? But it's like it's a thing. Like you did something. I worked out because I
did my boot camp.
I did. I was gonna say, like, I wrote down Orange Theory. I see so many gals walking out of Orange Theory who have been doing it for a long time and nothing
Haven't
has changed.
changed.
Not
changed.
a thing has changed.
Mhm.
And you and I know how to fix it. You're eating like dog shit. That's the problem. But it's a thing. Like, oh, I did my Orange Theory this morning, and then I can,
go get my Starbucks.
Yeah, go get my Starbucks and puff out my chest. I did my stuff, and then I'm gonna forget about anything. They're not trying to get better. You're exactly right. They're just, oh, did that. On to the next part of my life.
Yeah.
The next part of my day.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I can,
So yeah, think about, when you are going to the gym, think about what your intention is going in. And so the challenge to everybody, next time you go to the gym or next time you do a workout, whether it's at home or whatever, heck, even if it's taking a walk, like just be a little more intentional about what you're doing. Maybe try to speed up your pace a little bit. Maybe don't take your phone with you on your walk. Maybe just pay attention to getting some good exercise in, or being appreciative of the surrounding around you. Or when you're in your workout, what are you really working on? Are you keeping your postures good? Are you keeping your tempos? Are you doing, a good quality workout? Or are you just kind of checking the box? Are you just going in, knocking a couple things out, and then walking out the door so you can say that you got it done?
yeah, same thing with the range. Are you just,
Yeah,
I'm just trying
exactly.
just trying to get through this bucket of balls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my son Murphy. He just tries to hit as many balls in the shortest amount of time as he can. Like, dude, then you're paying for the next one.
Yeah, he tries to spend as much of your money on buckets of
Yeah.
golf balls as possible.
He's really working towards mastery on that.
Yeah.
Spending money that's not his on golf. He's a pro.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I see guys out there all the time where they're not practicing with any sort of mastery in mind or intent at all. Just and like, you know what gives it away? The guy who starts out with his driver.
Yeah.
Dead giveaway.
Yep. So in the book, George Leonard talks about kind of the five pillars of mastery. First one being instruction. Like he said, the first step of mastery in anything is finding someone, something that you can learn from. You can't just go out and wing mastery. So finding someone to follow, finding someone to personally instruct you, finding someone to read, some sort of direction. The second is then you have to practice that plan, or practice what that instruction is, or what that person is telling you. And then you have to, third piece is then you have to surrender to the fact that, kind of the peaks and plateaus. You have to surrender to the fact that your practice and the process is working, even when it doesn't appear that you're making any significant progress. And so having that ability to, I'm going to continue to work through this, and I'm going to surrender to the fact that doing this is what we talked about in the Forge. We talked about this, Ryan, back in the RFG with the guys a lot. Like, we laid out a program for these guys to follow as far as nutrition wise and workout wise. And sometimes we got a little bit of backlash, or we got a little bit of, oh, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or what about this? And we're like, no, just do what we said you're going to do, or do what we say. Just trust the process. Forget about all of the excuses, forget about, varying these different things. Like, just please trust the process, and trusting the process ended up for all of those guys getting them better results than they had gotten with any other program, as far as losing weight, feeling better on the golf course, hitting the ball farther. And none of those things were really labeled out in the program as like the number one thing. It was like, just trust the process, guys. It's coming. It's going to come. And so surrendering to that fact. The fourth piece is intentionality. So again, going into every practice session, going into every workout, going into every range session with some sort of intention behind it. Again, not just kind of checking the box, not just going through the motion, but having a little bit of awareness of what you're trying to do in that session. That's why I think that every time you go to the driving range or to practice on the putting surface or the short game, you should have some sort of a game in mind that you're going to play, that you can keep score, unless, even if you're working on something specific in your swing, you should try to gamify it somehow or another. Like, let's say you're even at the range and all you're doing is working on, how you're trying to get rid of your over the top. And so you're trying to come in a little bit more shallow, and all you're doing, you got one of those alignment sticks in the ground, and you're trying to swing underneath it. Like, okay, out of 10 swings, how many times do I do it? Like, make some sort of a game that you can kind of track and tally, just being intentional about that rather than just mindlessly going into a session. And then the last piece, which I find is interesting, and I haven't even read through all of the full-blown description through the whole book, but the last piece is called the edge. And the edge is that sometimes you need to push yourself past your limits. Sometimes you need to not just stay on the straight and narrow of the process, and this is where I look at like the trail run, Ryan. Like, sometimes you have to have something that you're going to strive for too, that maybe kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone. Because with this practice, you can get very monotonous and you can get very stuck in a rhythm. And every now and then you got to kind of like shock yourself out of it, and you got to push yourself. Again, that's where something like the Forge or 75 hard also, some people would say like that shit's crazy. Like 2 workouts a day. Like how do you have time? How do you do that? But after you've done something like the Forge, you're kind of like, well, it's not that I've already done that. It's not that much out of the realm, but yeah, it's going to push me more than, and we say, like, long-term, you can't just go fad diet, 5 days fasting, whatever. But sometimes you got to put yourself on the line and like really challenge yourself with something really hard. And then when you get through it, you're like, oh, I just peaked. I just got better. So the edge is kind of like pushing yourself to the limits in order to reach that next peak on occasion. So you don't get stuck in just that lull of where I would consider then kind of that hacker phase, where you're just kind of, stuck in the same position for eternity.
Forever. Yeah. No, I all that makes perfect sense. So yeah, just going through all those stages. He's a lot smarter than we are. Cool.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, so we're at 3:00. Anybody any questions, anything to add to what we've got going on here today?
The only comment I'd make is that I think where each day you go, you're trying to exchange one habit for the other. When I want to reach for ice cream because I want something sweet, why not a cold apple, instead? And it's so,
yes, that's kind of the
I still want that, it's part of that book, the habit, the cue, and reward and all that stuff. So
yeah, for sure. Like AA kind of built their model on that. They're just replacing the booze with the meetings.
Sure.
Yeah, as long as it's a positive new habit, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, like just it's almost, you have to get through that instant of, I'm either going to grab the bad thing, but if you make the good decision, it's like, okay, it's over, like again, we'll go back to the food piece. Like if you're really craving chips, you know, and you're like, man, I really want those chips. But then you go in and you just grab some carrots because you know it's going to give you that little crunch.
Right.
After you eat a couple carrots, you're kind of like, all right, I mean, I'm good. You know, like you
Yeah.
kind of get past that little, and then the more times you get past that little devil on your shoulder, right, the easier it becomes every time. So
Yeah, what I found helpful is you got to be prepare in advance by having those carrots easily
Yeah.
accessible, ready to go, you know, so or celery or something like that. You know?
yeah, know in your head what your temptations are, right?
Yeah,
Know in your head what
right.
that vice is and what you're going to replace it with. And that, I mean, that takes care of 90% of the issue. If you
Yeah.
know, because then you're like, all right, I already know what I'm supposed to do here. Yeah, I've already got it. I've got it sitting right there. I've got the carrots cut up. I've got the peppers or whatever. Like now, if I go for the chips, now I'm a real piece of shit. You
Yeah.
know?
You've exponentially made yourself feel worse.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, guys.
Great
We'll leave it on
session.
that one. We'll leave it
Yeah.
on that one. All right. We'll catch up with you guys next week. That's all I got.
Yep. All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
Stay strong.
Adios.